Hello and welcome to the Whole Plant Expo. I am here with Keith Butler, who is the co-founder of OP Innovates, and he is here today to talk about bioavailability and the methods therein. Delivery methods, yes. So Keith, to start, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? What is OP Innovates, and why do you know so much about bioavailability?
OP Innovates is I'll start with me. For those of you who don't know me, I would presume I would be considered old guard in the cannabis or hemp industry, having participated in the cannabis industry for over 4 decades and the hemp industry for more than 30 years. I believe in the plant. I believe that I am a steward of the plant, and it is our responsibility to bring the plant to the people. So with that being said, that's why I know bioavailability, because I live with this plant. I have my 10,000 hours plus, and participating with the plant has brought me tremendous insight into how it works. So not to mention school, science, good genes.
All of the above.
All of the above that go with it, but it's a true understanding of the plant as being a part of it and caring that this plant gets to our world.
So what then is bioavailability, and why is it important when it comes to cannabis?
So bioavailability is the amount of active ingredient which makes it to your bloodstream dependent upon the delivery method. So if you were to ingest 100 milligrams of any substance, and the bioavailability would be the quantification of what made it to the bloodstream. So if 10 milligrams made it into the bloodstream, and we were able to quantify that by blood plasma testing, that these are our peak levels, then we could say we had a 10% bioavailability. Of that 100 milligrams ingested, the 10 milligrams makes it to the blood.
Is that normal? Is 10% normal? That seems really low.
It's actually really high. In our world, for lipophilic compounds,
which are
lipophilic compounds are oil-based compounds,
like fat?
Fat-loving compounds. They are the opposite of our body in many sense. We're a water-based compound, and when oils and fats interact, they do not want to interact. They tend to repel each other. We see that whenever you place oil on top of water. You'll notice the oil sits on top of the water. You can't get it into the water. This is one of the problems with bioavailability, is our bodies are water-based and we're bringing in an oil-based compound. So that's the first step, is getting the body to accept the oil.
So how do you get the body to accept the oil then?
Well, there are a bunch of different ways. We're rolling down that the rabbit hole right now of one particular method, which would be ingestion. But for purposes of explaining how all the different delivery methods go, we've got a variety of delivery methods. We can smoke it.
Of course, traditional use.
Traditional method is smoking it. We can ingest it. We have a variety of different ways of ingesting it. We can put it on our skin, and we can take it topically. Also in ingestion, there are subsets. We can do a sublingual, where we drop a tincture onto our tongue, and we get a different delivery method than simply swallowing it. We also have nasal and rectal as well.
And then capsules and soft gels fall in the subset of
They'll
ingestion?
fall in the of ingestion, yes.
Okay.
Anything that you actually have to swallow, and it goes through your digestive system. That would go through the ingestion path. There's also injectables, but we're not there in our industry yet. Nobody has quite brought the compound to an injectable stage.
Yeah, that
but
sounds
one day, I presume one day the doctors will be using injectable compounds of the different cannabinoids that we all discover.
So that'd be like putting it in
an IV bag.
IV bag.
Yep.
Okay.
And bringing it right into the patient in whatever form. Now that's down the road, but that will happen. There's no question. We're going to learn these cannabinoids so well that medicine will be tailored to the individual, and it more than likely will be just delivered through an IV bag at some point.
So I would imagine that straight into the bloodstream has the highest bioavailability. Is that right?
Yes,
an
it does.
actual IV.
Yes, that would be a pharmaceutical delivery method.
Okay.
We are not there in our industry.
So do you get 100%?
Well, theoretically you should. It would depend on the compounds, and again, you'd still have to quantify what you placed into what truly was activated in the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's actually absorbed.
correct.
Okay.
So
I imagine you've got a little loss in that process.
there could be, but it's a completely different thing. So when you swallow something, your body will convert what you swallow to other things. They're called metabolites. So the metabolite path is something else we're going to have to discuss here, because depending on the different delivery methods, you could have different metabolites, and the metabolites affect us as well.
Okay. So before we get on to metabolites, because that
Okay.
sounds very complex.
It is.
What about so we've got IV, straight to the bloodstream. That's at like
Which
100%
Should
almost,
be theoretically,
90 to
which
100.
no one in our industry is doing.
Okay.
A few doctors have tested that. They did not have good results.
Okay.
The patients actually withdrew from the clinical studies where intravenous THC and CBD were used on patients. They withdrew to acute paranoia, and nobody was happy.
Injecting
from
THC sounds
Injecting
awful.
THC, very bad idea, at least is what the few studies that I've read talked about, and how the patients didn't even want to continue.
Okay.
So
That's the highest level. What comes after that?
So the studies have shown that the best way to get cannabis or hemp into the body, CBD, THC, is smoking.
Okay. But the
now,
FDA doesn't like that.
Nobody likes that, so
Yeah.
everybody's against smoking. But the reality is the compounds. This is one of the ways they work, and it's one of the quickest ways to get it to the body. Now, for smoking, we've seen incredible variance in the results, and I'm going to explain to you why. But you ready for this? Smoking, we have a study out there that shows a difference in bioavailability between 2 and 56%. I think I want to say it's 56 or 54. So imagine that spread from 2 to over 50%.
Yeah,
So-
scientists don't like that.
No, they don't like that at all, and they didn't understand. You know, they ultimately they blamed it on titration, which is what it came to, but they didn't really get it because they've never been with cannabis smokers. So the way cannabis smokers work is we do something called titration, and that's trying to get as much of it into our lungs as possible and hold it as long as possible so we get the effects. But the studies were taking place there were people brought into a clinical study. Many of the people had never smoked ever. So smoking to them was a little bit, that's the 2% was, I suck it into my mouth. And a little bit gets down to my lungs because they were timid for smoking.
I never inhaled.
So correct. Well, it's actually true. There are some people that really almost don't inhale when they smoke because they kind of fake like they're smoking. They want to look like they're smoking, but the actual action of bringing the smoke into their lungs may irritate them or frighten them or whatever it may be, so they don't actually absorb the compounds. So we used to do in the old days something called the no smoke policy, or NSP. And that would be when you took a large hit of something that you would hold it in as long as humanly possible. And then when you blew it out, there was no smoke. So that meaning you actually absorbed all of the cannabinoids. We were pushing for 100% bioavailability by the no smoke policy, because that cloud of smoke that leaves your lungs is actually cannabinoids. So we smell it, and people
probably
smell
terpenes
it,
and
flavonoids, and
okay.
they're all still in there. So I read, there was a article I read by a CBD company who was claiming that Sublingual was the best way to ingest cannabinoids because when you smoke them, half of it is expelled. Boy, did I get a kick out of that somebody could take that and change that information and data to make Sublingual look better because half of it is expelled.
So half of it would be expelled because you're only absorbing up to 50%.
That's correct.
So
but
then
we
where
already
does
said that's
sublingual
the
fall
best
within
way.
that?
So,
Yeah.
so they're saying this is better because half is expelled,
Mm-hmm.
but no one's quantifying over here. Well, what is diluted or what disappears or what's changed through the ingestion process versus the exhalation?
So when you take a sublingual or a tincture or an oil, people call them all kinds of things in the
They
hemp
do.
industry and
They
cannabis
do.
industry.
But we're talking about a liquid carrying an active
Yeah.
ingredient
Mhm.
that your
Putting
intention
it,
is to put it on your tongue. Now, mind you, carriers will alter the bioavailability
Right.
because the higher fat-based carriers,
Like your long chain.
correct.
Fatty acids?
Well, it's in the fatty acid families, but anything that is what we used to consider bad for you
Mhm.
is the better delivery method for cannabinoids. These heavy fats bring cannabinoids into the body better because, again, we're back to fats and oils. So they combine with those fats and oils, and we seem to digest them a little better and bring them in.
So that would be like what, hemp seed oil and olive oil and
Boom, boom. Coconut
Grapeseed oil.
Coconut oil also, grapeseed oil.
coconut oil is MCT though,
It
right?
is. It's a medium chain
So
triglyceride.
does that mean it's not as good as the long chain?
There's no study.
Okay.
So everything we're talking about is totally theoretical and based on the available science that we have. Me and my team, we have MDs, PhDs on the team. We research and study all the time, and there are new studies coming out continuously, which in this talk I get to actually back up the data I've been talking about for years with a study that finally quantified what the theoretical numbers have been.
Excellent.
So yes, so just like smoking, I've got a quantification in this
Okay.
discussion. So where were we? Sublingual?
So yeah, sublingual, is that, so it's not as good as inhaling.
Correct.
Is it better than a capsule or a soft gel?
So we are at the theoretically.
And what are you actually absorbing sublingually?
Well, you're absorbing.
It's not 50%.
No, no.
So it's
not.
lower than that.
It's definitely lower than that. So what we're looking at with a sublingual tincture is we don't really have any quantification yet.
Mhm.
So that's not the thing I can quantify here. It would be the sublingual.
Okay.
So sublingual has always believed to be slightly higher than ingestion, than dropping it down through the stomach and let it pass through. We believe we could get almost twice as much out of this sublingual method, but to date, we've yet to see any solid study showing exactly what the absorption rates
With
are
hemp.
with hemp or cannabis or THC. The reason I say THC or cannabis often when describing pharmacokinetics of cannabinoids is that is by far the most researched cannabinoid.
Right.
So all the research has been out there to prove that THC is bad, so they've done these studies. Now, CBD, nobody's doing that except on our own dime. We don't have government money trying to prove that CBD is, so the research is not as high level as it was on the
So
THC
we might
side.
have data on like turmeric or curcumin
Yes.
bioavailability
That-
sublingually, but
correct.
not cannabis
But
or
not-
hemp or THC.
But not CBD,
Or CBD.
in particular. Now, we may have it on THC
Mhm.
because there have been lots of studies over decades to prove that THC was bad, and in those studies, a lot of money was thrown at them that could allow pharmacokinetic studies.
Yeah.
So that's why THC is mainly the quoted thing here when we are talking about
Okay.
pharmacokinetics with cannabinoids.
So,
So back to sublingual.
yeah, I mean, the thing with sublingual, though, right, is that it's technically a medical delivery device. So you're
It's right.
technically, as a supplement, you're not allowed to say that it's sublingual according to the FDA.
Well, these are some of the nuances, of course, in our industry, and technically you are correct.
Okay.
And it shifts over to another level, but we all know in the hemp cannabis space, tinctures are fully accepted, and everybody understands it.
Right,
It's
you just can't have directions.
It's the standardized delivery device or
Yeah.
delivery method for the industry currently.
But that means that if if you can on your bottle say that it's a delivery system, or that you put it on your tongue, because the FDA could come after you for that, then you would potentially, whoever's using it, would get a very different absorption rate if they're actually following the directions on the bottle, which would have to be just to swallow it, versus actually taking it sublingually.
So sublingually, and take the sublingual part, and let's just let people know the best way to absorb a tincture. So we've looked at this many times. I don't have the studies on it, but this is what we believe to be true. So when you drop that tincture down in your mouth, that if you take the material with your tongue and move it to the lower areas and move it throughout the absorbent areas in your mouth, you will get correct, and move it in, we believe you'll get a better absorption with that. It's, in my experience, you can pretty much get most of the oil to dissipate just moving it throughout your mouth.
Then you get a hold in your mouth.
Yeah,
it's kind of gross.
So you gotta like hemp or the taste or not let it bother you, but you know, there are benefits to it. So I don't have a problem with it, but there's a lot of better ways to adjust anyway that you don't have to deal with the taste. Yeah. But we'll get there.
So that would probably, I mean, I've read somewhere.
What's your guess?
Like a 10, I've read anywhere between 10 to 50%, depending on whether or not you're taking it with a high-fat snack.
Well, that's some pretty wishful thinking on the 50% side, unless it was some incredible...
Well, I think that would be the high-fat snack doing the trick, not the actual...
So that's incredibly wishful thinking. We don't have any data on it. I have been theorizing between 5 and 25, 30% at max, is based on all the data I've read and all the different studies that are out there. That's probably where it's going to fall. But I have some new data for the next category, which will change and does change that understanding. So it's going to go down.
Okay, so let's talk then about capsules and soft gels. How do they compare to an oil, tincture, or sublingual form?
So most capsules and soft gels are going to be similar at minimum to the oil that we're taking in the sublingual form. It's still coming in through the body, even though a portion of it is absorbing. The rest of it you're swallowing. And there is data now on this, so I no longer have to make a guess. I have been guessing for years now based on the available data that when you ingest a compound, a lipophilic compound, that the absorption would be between 4 and 20%. And
that's like swallowing a capsule.
That's swallowing a capsule,
okay.
Swallowing a soft gel, swallowing anything that doesn't have any enhanced delivery method.
So no emulsion,
no
or
emulsions, no liposomes, no nanoparticles, no none of this.
We got to talk about that later.
Well, we're headed there too, but right now we're just talking about absorption.
Yeah.
So when you swallow hemp oil that has cannabinoids in it.
In a soft gel or capsule.
In a soft gel or capsule. The soft gels are generally the oil itself placed into a carrier, the soft gel. So it's just a means to not have to taste it, what we were just talking about. So you bypass the mouth, it gets down into the gut, the soft gel disappears, the oil made it to your gut without actually tasting it. So capsules are the same thing for the most part. Almost every capsule out there is a method or means in which to get either the oil or the actual flour. Now I've seen many companies who are putting the flour itself and delivering the CBD in flour, which is encapsulated, so basically you're eating the hemp without having to chew it. So, and it's still delivering the cannabinoids. Doesn't matter whether it's the flour or the oil.
And probably deliver a lot of raw cannabinoids.
Well, it's actually, I think it's better in that method because you're getting the raw cannabinoids, which are the acid side compounds. You'll get THCA, CBDA, CBGA, CBCA. Depends on what you're eating. But you're going to have the acid side compounds, which is another discussion.
Yeah.
With a conversion of the acids to the non-acids or the active forms of the molecules. But back to sublingual, we were now moving down to ingestion. Yeah. And ready for the number? The number, a study which came out in, I want to say it was July. So we're talking really, really recent here.
2 months ago.
2 months ago, like 90 days ago. I was so excited when I saw this study. They studied THC, of course, but we have an actual number for bioavailability on THC, which should be the same as CBD. The pharmacokinetics seem to be pretty similar. And ready for this? It is, ta-da, 6%.
Whoa! Killer! Wow.
That's all it is.
It says, would that be the same as a gummy then? I mean,
It's
when
the
I
same
have
for all of it.
When I take a 10 milligram gummy, I'm really only absorbing like 0.6 milligrams. That's nothing.
Yeah, I know. And that's the actual pharmacokinetics of what happens when bioavailability the body, lipophilic compounds.
I must
the
be really
liver.
sensitive to THC then.
Well, that's a whole nother. We should discuss that a little bit as
Yeah.
well. There's everything ties together here. So how it's ingested, how it's metabolized, you yourself, how much fat is in your body, your genetics. It's a whole, and I guess that's what we're here for. Is the whole plant expo. So
That's a
just
good point.
tie that all together. Well, we're here about the whole plant. So let's get back to ingestion methods. So you're just blown away. It's 6%.
6%
It's
is
6%,
like
and people
shocked.
Yeah, and this is real. I'm not making these numbers up. I didn't do the studies.
Did this study compare it to an oil, an actual
This
oil
was
form?
an oil-based THC.
But it was in a capsule or a soft gel?
No, this was an oil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was their ingestion. They compared a variety of outcomes.
So this is like a tincture.
This was a tincture, 6%.
Tincture. Nomenclature.
Tincture swallowed.
Yeah.
Tincture swallowed. So the
But without alcohol, probably.
ingestion of THC
Yeah.
was giving them a 6% bioavailability.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that, you had said, what, between 4 and 20% was your
Correct.
guess?
I've been guessing 4 to 20%
And it
all
was
along.
6%.
I always said it's on the lower side for sure.
Wow.
But so now let's go to other ingestion methods. So this is gonna blow you away. So we all know that for the past, well, not all of us, but for the past 20 years or so, the cancer community has been going up into the mountains to get help from cannabinoids, THC, what was called Rick Simpson oil.
Right.
And they were inserting this rectally for those who had colon cancer and prostate cancer. They would go up, they would get these preparations made of RSO, which is a raw cannabinoid oil, high in THC, and they would insert it rectally. The dosages range from 100 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams a day. And I'm looking at it going, wow, 1,000 milligrams, because I was up there on the mountain talking to a bunch of the old guard and the old timers about the research. What's happened here, guys? Because they kept all the records. So the real records of
good.
how all this stuff worked is they have records and they know exactly what happened and what worked. And I was blown away at the dosages at 1,000 milligrams. But now I know there's an actual study reported at NIH for rectal absorption for cannabinoids on monkeys. And guess what the number is?
30%.
13.5.
Oh, God.
So
Wow.
again, these compounds are difficult to get in the body.
Huh.
And that's real. That's the reality. 13.5%. I would have thought it would have been at least 30. I would have thought it was 50 or more by placing it there. So, but what this tells us, and this makes it, I did it. So, I'm in the industry and we're talking to people, and when we say, well, this is what is done, they look at me like, are you crazy? So I actually did it myself, and I tried the experiment with 1,000 milligrams. I did, and let me tell you, I was pretty sluggish.
Yeah.
But it was clearly a 13.5% bioavailability, because I know my cannabinoid levels. I know what I can handle THC wise, and that's 135 milligrams.
Yeah.
It felt like a 100 milligram chocolate bar to me.
My God.
Well,
I'd
it's
be
a lot.
hallucinating.
Well, okay, let's talk
But that's
about that. Let's talk about that. You may be hallucinating, but there are studies out there which we've been privy to on our team under our world, and we can now tell that THC affects people up to a 20-fold difference. So when you said you may be wiped out, see, you may not, my THC tolerance may be 20 times different than yours.
Yeah.
And
I
this
believe
has
it.
nothing, well, just due to circumstances, but I'm talking about just as humanity, that as the human race, our tolerance levels for cannabinoids appear to scientifically have a range of 20-fold. So, and this isn't just THC. So now the CBD numbers seem to be a little different, which is odd. I'm seeing that range at less than 10. So it's about half of the range of THC difference, where, hey, this doesn't affect me, or I can't even think.
Right.
Off of the same amount. We got two people, same weight, same size. One guy can't stand up, and the other guy's like, "Where is it? I feel nothing." That's because of our bodies and how we metabolize things, the density of our endocannabinoid systems.
Right.
Our entire body is run and managed by these systems. Some of us are deficient. Some of us overproduce. Me. So it depends on who you are, and that all comes down to titration. And again, back to 40 years of being with this plant, 30 years of being an advocate for hemp. I've been in so many situations that the world is just experiencing now that we already have this understanding. Back to the NSP, no smoke policy. We knew if we held it into the last second, we would get better effects. And we've watched these things take place over the decades.
So do you have then, the rectal, which is called a...
the rectal delivery is about 13.5%.
Yeah, what's the term that people use for, they don't call it a rectal delivery?
Suppositories.
Suppositories, yeah.
Yes.
So suppositories are around 13%.
They're 13.5%.
13.5%.
Whoops. On monkeys.
On monkeys, okay.
So it has not been studied on humans. So,
okay, probably somewhere around that.
I'm guessing they're about the same. Due to my experience, I'd say it's about 13.5%.
Okay, and then the oils, actual oil, did that study, that's 6%. In the study, did they put it under the tongue and hold it, or did they just swallow? Straight swallow, okay. So then is there data on a capsule and a soft gel and what that magic number is?
No.
Okay.
Not that I can find yet. Now, I'm sure there are some companies.
You could probably imagine if they're just swallowing the oil, it's probably pretty similar.
Yeah, and the science basically is going to say that they're the same. But until somebody does the study and actually pays to test the blood and does a controlled study so we know what goes in versus what comes out, it's all anecdotal.
So what are ways that a consumer can improve that bioavailability naturally without having to buy a special formulation?
Oh, there's lots of ways. So really just eating your cannabinoids with high-fat foods seems to help in every way. I love bacon, so cannabinoids and bacon is perfect for me.
Maybe peanut butter or almond butter.
Peanut butter's good too. But the bad cholesterol that we used to be told was the bad cholesterol, that's what carries cannabinoids the best. So bacon grease, milk fats, butter fats, fat. So it's really fat. So the more fat we have in what we take it in, it's really the more fat we have in our body, the better.
So it kind of clings onto that fat and then will digest
lousy
with it.
at all of this, hence your issues because of the way you're in. The more fat you have in the body, the better it's going to process for you.
Okay, so eat it with a high-fat snack, or I guess after dinner or breakfast or lunch.
Yeah, no, do not eat cannabinoids or hemp-based products on an empty stomach. They work way worse.
Yeah.
Nowhere near. Your bioavailability even goes down from there.
Right. So it's kind of like...
You don't want to do this on an empty stomach.
Yeah, okay.
So, but what did we get through? We got through smoking.
Yeah, so, we've talked about each of the types of deliveries. What about topically?
So again,
you can't eat a high-fat snack going to help your topical absorption?
No, it's not going to do much for it. No, that's really going to be based in the oils or whatever the carrier is. Again, high-fat things that are coming in, moving the cannabinoids, but there's a lot of magic in topical preparations that it's really scientific.
The menthol or peppermint or any permeation enhancers.
So many different types of permeation enhancers. So topicals, essential oils, well, even that. So we're talking about getting through the skin. What the absorption rates are, no clue. There's nobody.
I've read 3%.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's next to nil. And then there have been arguments whether Cbd and Thc absorb through the skin at the same rates or at all or against each other. There's a list of that. However, even when science said that THC doesn't absorb well through the skin, there are topical patches out there that really work.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, so the science says it doesn't work, but anecdotally, it does.
And certain balms, I one of my first experiences with CBD was I had broken chipped my ankle, had a nasty swollen joint. It was huge. And that night I rubbed a CBD balm on it, and the next morning the swelling was almost completely gone.
Well, now, absorption into the bloodstream and absorption into the skin are two different things.
Is they're going after different receptors?
Yes. So, well, it's not making it to the bloodstream was always my belief.
Okay.
Until those crazy patches came out that worked, because they have to make it to the bloodstream in order for me to feel it like that.
Oh,
so,
right, because you don't put them. You put them on like where you're.
When those stick-on patches.
Yeah,
right?
you don't
like,
necessarily put them at the location,
yeah, you don't
right?
you don't put it on a location. You just stick it on, and somehow that THC made it through my skin into my blood and affected me.
Okay.
Now, that's what surprised me, and that's actually was surprising on the scientific data. But again, this comes down to research. If you put effort into learning your craft and your trade, you'll figure out a way to do things. So, I've made topicals that are just amazing. And what you're talking about there is absorption into the skin. And the skin is loaded with these endocannabinoid receptors. They are in many different ways working on the issue that you have, the inflammation. So it's all used in a localized basis, and what we don't know is, does any of it make it to the bloodstream and continue onto the rest of the body, or is all of the compound utilized on a localized basis?
Yeah, I mean, and that's not even an important question for absorption, but I know like a lot of athletes have considered using different balms for their needs, but then if they're drug tested, common question is, am I going to fail a drug test?
Correct. Because we have noticed that topicals that have higher amounts of THC seem to work better as well. So, and then you get in, do the athletes, do they have to use a THC-free topical?
Right.
Because is it possible that THC is going to make it to the bloodstream?
Yeah.
And, well, if it was put in that patch I used, I'd say absolutely. But if you just rubbed it on, probably not.
Yeah.
The science isn't there to show that it, and certainly it's not going to be enough to accumulate. If you're starting with small amounts, you're being broken down to 3%, as you say, what it might be, and then it's 3% of 0.3. And then across a body with a mass of 100 kilos or whatever it may be, it's not going to show up.
Right.
But topicals, we're still waiting on the evidence, but we don't need to wait on anything. Anecdotally, there are so many quality topicals in the marketplace. Some work really well, some work okay, some don't work, but that's really about the formulation.
Well, so then that means,
of the formulation of a topical.
Let's say that it is only 3% actually absorbs into the skin. I mean, a lot of topicals out there are like into the blood. Yeah, a lot of topicals out there are only, 2 milligrams per gram. I mean,
so there isn't anything to absorb.
You're not. Yeah. What are you even getting?
Yeah, that's a very valid point. And we see that a lot in the industry of these really low milligram topicals, which, given the absorption rates and this and that, it may be more a placebo effect than anything.
Or some of the other ingredients.
If a lot of people use menthol really working, I mean, essential oils do magic to the skin, and the carrier oils. I mean, just a good olive oil and a good medium chain oil, they make your skin feel better. So in the right combinations with the right formulations, you can make seemingly magic skin preparations that really do great things.
Right.
Just utilizing the essential oils and the cannabinoids. But that comes back to
that's like more on the pain side, which technically the FDA doesn't approve of.
Well, we don't. We work with the whole plant, so we would be looking at a variety of plants and what properties do these plants have that we can take together to give a beneficial outcome in a product. And still manufacture that product on a legal basis. So on hemp, that would be under 0.3, which the products that most of us in this industry are putting out can cross state lines. Unless you're in the cannabis space and you're locked into a state or a locality, your products can move out of where you're at. So.
Isn't that wild?
I know.
A little plant has so many restrictions on it.
It's
caused a lot of headaches.
They are.
So there's a lot of talk in the industry then about all of these different delivery systems, nanotechnology, emulsions, liposomes. Are they real?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Technology works.
Okay.
And nanotechnology, emulsions, liposomes, they all work. The only problem is no one's quantified them. I know they work better than what we have. I have developed what we call nature's delivery system, which in essence is a combination of all of them, realistically, by nature. So let's go over the systems and explain what they are.
How does it,
So let's start off with let's start off with nano. So nano is the nanotization, or making small, of the molecule that we have. So the objective of
So
nano,
you're kind of like breaking it?
yeah, they are,
Like
and mainly the way
shatter
it's all good word. The way mainly it's done is used by sonification, which is a sound wave. So by sonification, they're able to break the molecules into its smallest components, and as it gets smaller and smaller, it now doesn't have a problem dispersing in water because it's smaller than the molecules in the water. So it just disappears inside the water versus being repelled out of the outside. Now the nano has a lot of great features and it works without question. What I still question to this day is when nano's purpose is that it slips through all of the systems in the body. Even when swallowed, it doesn't have to go through the gut. It slips directly into the bloodstream because it's so small. So the bloodstream picks it up. Now, my question is, can the body be tricked like this? Because the bloodstream, yeah, no kidding. And the body is super smart, and it's amazing what our body does. It is beyond all of our comprehension as to how many processes are taking place in our body every day. So my belief is the body's like, whoa, foreign entity, super small, in the bloodstream, get it out. And although the peak levels may go quickly high, and it may seem that we're getting a lot of the material, I don't know, I can't prove this. I think the body would say it got in without the correct pathway.
So maybe it would have a high peak, but the longevity would be short-lived.
I just don't know. And this is just my theory of how the body would react to a foreign substance which got in a method which the body never contemplated.
Right.
Nor did evolution ever contemplate the creation of nanoparticles by science that would slip through every system in the body that had created barriers. Blood-brain barrier, so on and so forth. These barriers were created for a purpose. And all of a sudden our science gets us a way to slip past all of the body's mechanisms. So I wonder, how does the body deal with this? Does it know or does it not know?
Yeah.
And so that's up in the air to me. The stuff works, there's no question. It's got a quick hit. And the people who use it, and again, we're back to anecdotal, because the people who use it swear by it and they won't buy anything else. And the people who don't use it don't know any different. So again, we're back to, okay, I've tried it. It seemed to be decently efficacious. So that's what I know about nano. I know how to make it, I know what it is, I know how it works, but I don't know how the body treats it.
Right.
And
that would make sense, that it would say like, oh, this is a foreign thing, push it back into the liver and have it metabolize.
And cleanse it and metabolize it, and then
you're not supposed to be out here.
No, it can't be here because this could be killing us.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Right.
The body's always looking for invaders, and and that's what it does.
Huh.
So just a thought.
So
what's next?
That's number one. Nano.
Okay.
Emulsion.
Emulsions. So emulsions are, we put together two things, and the objective is to create a core and something on the outside that interacts with water. So in other words, the surface of the cannabinoid, which repels water, is covered by something else, which
like a
is
camouflaging
fine,
agent,
correct?
kind of?
Yeah, which is fine with the cannabinoid that's inside the sphere, but on the outside of that sphere, that emulsion has what's called surfactants. These are chemicals which change the polarity. So now instead of being repelled, it's attracted, and it will hold in the water.
Okay.
So liposomes work. We can.
A liposome is an emulsion?
Liposomes, I got ahead of myself. Liposome is a natural, is a form of a natural emulsion.
Okay.
I totally got ahead of myself.
Yeah, sorry. Slow down.
So back to, we were on just regular emulsions.
Mm-hmm.
Regular emulsions are when we bring surfactants in, we add something like vitamin E.
What's an example of a
Vitamin.
surfactant? Okay.
We'll bring in vitamin E. Vitamin E is really good for this. The vitamin E will coat, that's tocopherol. We'll coat the cannabinoids with it. The cannabinoids will have a different polarity on the outside from the vitamin E, and they will appear to disperse in water. And hence we have a water-soluble product because we camouflaged it on the outside. I've actually seen some camouflaging agents where it's a water-soluble, it looks water-soluble, but really what we're getting is a reflective view from the surface of a dark molecule covered in something else that reflects the color outside of it. So you don't see the dark molecule inside. Amazing.
Smart.
Put a black object into a clear container,
Right.
and the object has a chemical camouflage around it, which when viewing the object reflects back other light, not what's inside of it.
Wow.
So it disappears. It looks
Smart.
like it's not there. Very cool method. What do you want to do next?
Liposomes? Are those
Liposomes.
emulsions?
Liposomes are natural or synthetic, very similar to this same process, but they occur in nature also. And liposomes, some liposomes, have different pathways into the body, meaning they don't just whoosh through the digestive system like everything else. They may attach on their way down and get absorbed in another method which the body has is ready for. And that actually is a part of where I said that we kind of incorporated all of these methods.
Like a nano emulsion liposome?
Pretty much, yeah.
Sounds like an awesome marketing
No kidding.
toy.
But, well, I haven't taken raw material yet on the nano side, and we're doing a natural emulsion liposome is basically what we ended up with. It's called Nature's Delivery System, and Nature's Delivery System was based off of a molecule which was found in breast milk that was used to pass along between mother to child. And this particular molecule is a very complex natural liposome in short ways of speaking. And what it does is it encapsulates the cannabinoid molecule, and in the digestive system it stops it at the intestine. So as the ingestion is going down, the objective was that when a mother feeds her young, that if the young is only getting 6%, because nature already knew this number. The number we just quantified, you understand that nature knew this number already. Yeah, of course, nature knew this number. We've just been trying to quantify it all along. So nature made a bypass system for mothers to feed their young so the young could get these nutrients. And that bypass system is basically what we developed, a means to utilize that bypass system. So the bypass system...
Mothers are pretty smart.
Mothers are awesome, yeah. But, and this just isn't human mothers, this is mammals in general. So this covers mammals. And as far as we know, there's hardly a species out there that doesn't have an endocannabinoid system that this doesn't relate
Insects.
to. Dogs, cats, everything. I mean, everything around us is connected to this. So back to evolution, understood this. What happens is, once we had discovered this pathway and a means to actually utilize it, is it appears that the cannabinoids end up in the intestinal wall instead of going through the liver.
So traditionally they go through the liver.
Correct. They'll go into the liver, and they will be, for lack of a better word, washed or cleansed, made acceptable to our body.
And that's where that degradation goes from
It is where
100
the
to 6.
degradation takes place, and it goes from 100% where you started to 6% of the active. It's also where the metabolites start. So we hear a lot about this P450 enzyme. That is a metabolite. This is what's taking place, is this enzyme is causing the metabolites. So when we ingest like delta 9 THC, it turns into 11-OH THC, which is a whole nother discussion, but the metabolites all do different things. 11-OH is thought to be 5 times more potent or more psychoactive than delta 9 THC. So The metabolites is a whole nother story. We don't even have time to go to that route. So
another video.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's take care of the biodelivery. So we've got all that.
So it traditionally goes into the liver. It's cleansed.
It's cleansed. The degradation occurs. The metabolites are created, and then it goes to the bloodstream as it processes through the body. The nature's delivery system attaches to the intestinal wall.
So it doesn't go through the liver.
It doesn't make it to the liver. That is the objective of the mother feeding the young is the non-degradation. So when attached to this molecule, when it gets to the intestinal wall, it grabs on, and then a little guy called a chylomicron. It's a transport device. I like to look at him as Pac-Man. Okay. That's how I kind of view the chylomicrons as little Pac-Man. And they come in and they're like, "Oh, yummy!" And they grab this molecule, which is placed into the intestine, and they move it up into the lymphatic system. And then the lymphatic system distributes that active ingredient, and the lymphatic system will bring it to the thoracic system, which distributes it throughout the body. So this method appears to bypass the degradation. So this is something incredible. We've seen it only in anecdotal. We've just gotten to the point where we've gotten to an IRB, which stands for an Institutional Review Board. And our studies are not allowed to be done on humans without approval from an institution. And we are at that stage now. We've been trying to do studies for about a year and a half on nature's delivery system, but getting through an IRB has been really difficult. We're about to go into our third try now. Hopefully, I think we'll make it this time because of the science and the level of doctors that we brought onto our team.
Okay. I can imagine the FDA doesn't really want you doing human blood trials on people using CBD.
Correct, and that's why this data is not out there. Because in order to test the blood of a human being against a drug, you have to have permission by the government itself, which starts with this Institutional Review Board, which I've been in twice and failed twice, going into a third time here in the fall.
Third time's a charm.
Third time's a charm, and I actually believe I'm going to succeed. Our studies are all ready to go, and once we have approval, then I can actually tell you what the delivery will be for nature's delivery system versus a traditional oil. That's our upcoming study. But
do you have a guess on?
I got a guess, but I didn't even want to talk about that because I don't. In my position, we never make claims that we can't substantiate.
Okay.
So I just say it works. But
it works, try it.
But I don't want to make any claims until I can actually prove it. And when the claims is, I see it all the time. And this is part of why I started talking about this subject is I see it all the time. There are CBD companies and cannabis companies who are claiming to have 100% bioavailability. I've seen 90%, 95%. The numbers are ridiculous.
Yeah, I've seen some.
They're all over the place.
99.9%.
They're simply not true, and that was one of the things that really got me upset. As a steward of the plant, we can't go around telling people things that aren't true. And if a company's out there marketing that their product is 99% bioavailable, it's plain it's not.
They must be having an IV.
I've said that before. I've actually mocked people and said, what are they shooting? But that's the reality. And so as professionals in our industry, and myself, and I know you are as well, as steward of the plant, we have a serious responsibility to call these people out or just avoid this as a whole through our associations.
Right. The whole misinformation, miseducation is really bad for the
educating properly is key for our industry. So that to me is really important. And,
so OP Innovates manufactures nature's delivery system. What's the
OP stands for our plant, our planet, our people. And what we do is we work with the plant from the ground up, the whole plant.
Okay.
We manufacture, we are the exclusive manufacturers of nature's delivery system, the patent-pending delivery.
Which you created?
I am a co-founder of it. I'm a co-creator of it, correct.
Okay.
Dr. James Kane is my, invented it with me.
Okay.
And he's my co-guy. And he's a real PhD, microbiologist, 50 years experience in the pharmaceutical industry. Worked for some majors in the pharmaceutical industry, as well as he was a professor. So, but he's got a full 50 years experience in the industry.
Very
He's got
cool.
white hair to prove it. And he's super cool. I don't know what we do without him, and having that level of research and science behind us. And we also have MDs as well, some pretty incredible MDs too. But Dr. Kane's awesome.
Excellent.
So him and I created this, and we have a manufacturing exclusive on it, and we're soon to be licensing the technology. But basically what...
So it'll be available for private labeling, white
correct,
labeling?
private labeling, white labeling.
A company could come and contact you and...
That's correct.
Okay.
To showcase the technology, we created 2 brands off the get-go.
Yeah,
right
are these them?
These are them. Imagine that. So they're showcased in 2 different ways. This is the THC showcase on Hemp Mellow, which is right at 0.3% THC. So we were able to deliver the maximum legal amount, and because, and this is again back to my belief because I haven't finished the pharmacology on it, but I believe our product acts differently because we don't go through the liver's metabolism. And remember, I was talking about 11-OH being metabolized from delta 9. Well, 11-OH is 5 times more psychoactive. I think it's
You mean intoxicating?
Yeah, intoxicating. And
That's,
really what I mean is
psychoactive.
paranoia
Okay.
and sweaty.
Oh.
So, because I don't really look at the delta 9 as being that intoxicating, it's the conversion and the metabolite of delta 9 that is really that really gets to people. So what delta 9?
So that's like when you eat a gummy and then like 2 hours later it's like, oh my God, it's
and
metabolized.
it's the sweats, or you don't feel good, the nauseous, the sweats, or the paranoia. Paranoia comes with 11-OH. So what seems to be coming with just delta 9 is mellow, not really high or couch or this or that, just like chilling.
Calm.
Yeah, calm.
They call it hemp mellow.
Yeah, so we developed this product to leverage that feeling.
Okay.
And branded it and named it Hemp Mellow.
And this has Nature's Delivery System.
This is Nature's Delivery System at its best, right?
So if somebody wanted to compare a traditional oil to a traditional capsule to Nature's Delivery System, they can
That'd be
do
easy
that right
to
now.
do. And actually if you could get an IRB, I can tell you exactly. So we're just about there.
Okay.
So Hemp Mellow is the relaxation product, which, by the way, after COVID, this turned out to be an amazing thing for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I've taken it for stress, and it's
amazing
very
product
cool.
for a lot of people.
Very chill.
They were very, very happy to have that. And then the other brand that we created is called Overcome. And well, you know a lot about Overcome.
I do.
So because I made this for you.
You did, yeah.
So why don't you tell?
No, that's okay. This is your thing.
So Overcome is a product which is designed to overcome life's daily challenges. And Annie has Lyme disease, which is
Major challenge.
a major challenge for her. And this brand was originally focused around understanding what hemp or CBD or cannabinoids can do to help Lyme disease.
Or to really help me. I mean, not Lyme disease specifically.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I'm making no medical claims of any
Yeah.
kind. This is Annie's issues that she
Yeah.
was trying to deal with. And the Overcome brand is basically the outcome of her research, then coupled with my technology.
Mm-hmm.
And when her research was coupled with my technology, we had a product that worked really well. This is not leveraged THC, this is leveraged science.
Mm-hmm.
There are a variety of cannabinoids in here that are helping balance the system. So this is about system balance and overcoming life's everyday challenges. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, this one specifically is for the evening, your evening
Correct.
sleep patterns.
There'll be some daytime formulations as well, but this is called Overcome Every Night.
Mm-hmm.
And this is CBD, CBDA, CBG, CBN. This is
Legal limits of delta 9.
Correct. Really leveraged cannabinoids with the technology. Well branded, U.S. Hemp Authority certified.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great product. So made by really great team. So that's the products. I didn't really come here to talk about our products. I came here to get some information and some knowledge out to the public as to these delivery methods. So why don't we do a quick recap before we roll
Well,
on?
yeah, I was
so
about to
everyone
say
remembers?
we've got just a tiny bit of time left here. If a person was to walk away with one thing from this presentation, what would you want them to really walk away with?
Our bodies are all unique. Everybody has different dosages and different requirements. Different delivery methods are for different reasons, which we didn't discuss that, but very quickly, smoking is for quick onset, ingestion is for long term and for maintenance and balance, and topical is for outside injuries.
And
So-
is it short term, long
Yeah.
term, short term? Okay.
So now I personally carry all three methods with me at all the time, because if something happens, a traumatic event that is traumatic to my mind, a vape is the quickest way to get there. To keep my body healthy as a whole, I keep a good solid cannabinoid tone and balance through ingestion. And if a bug bites me or I cut myself or I burn myself, I'm ready for that preparation. So,
Oh yeah, bug bites. I've used a lot of CBD topicals,
Oh,
THC topicals on bug bites. They help a lot. I mean, my
they
foot
really
got
help a lot.
eaten up by mosquitoes
Yeah,
recently.
bug bites and even an injury. If you get a trauma or get hit or struck with something out on the exterior, I always use the topicals.
Put it right on.
Yep, and it seems to increase the healing time no matter what the injury is, and also kind of just make it more bearable, whatever.
Probably also put your mind at ease a little. It's probably some placebo
It
in
does.
it.
There's no question. All these cannabinoids have some placebo in it for myself and everybody in some way, shape, or form. We all are products of our mind. So our mind creates our world around us. And
That is true.
our minds are incredibly powerful things. So please don't ever discount that as well when dealing with whole plant and whole plant medicine, that your mind is the most powerful tool we have. So
Yeah, the body is much smarter than even our mind is.
yeah.
Or that our mind recognizes, I
Yeah,
guess.
so we can't recognize that, but our bodies are incredible. So we need to feed them the proper nutrients. We need to have a balance with our plant. I call cannabis our companion plant. I believe our world is in part fallen apart because it hasn't been here for the past 70 years or 100 years.
80.
So when we put it back into our lives and our lifestyles and we start ingesting it in both raw and cooked forms, I believe that the balance of humanity will start to shift back to a more balanced space.
Well, and that goes for hemp foods as well. I mean, feeding it to animals, getting
Big
it back into
advocates,
the
getting
supply
it into the
chain,
supply chain, into the food
getting
chain.
our endocannabinoid nutrition levels
Correct.
back
Correct.
up to
From our natural sources, which
right.
they once were at, because this is what we all know, an old dietary ingredient. It's been around forever. It was eaten by the animals. It was passed on through every means, including the mother and the mother's breast milk, into
Right.
our bodies, and that it helped keep us in balance. And that's ultimately what we're striving for, all of us as human beings, is just to be in balance, mentally, physically, emotionally.
Well, I think on that note, I would say that everybody echoes that sentiment, especially in times that we're in today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Keith, you can find OP Innovates. What's the web address?
OP Innovates.
opinnovates.com. You can learn more about Keith Butler and Dr. Jim Kane and the amazing activities that their team is doing, as well as Nature's Delivery System, hempmellow.com, overcomeeveryday.com. And thank you for presenting, and thank you, Whole Plant Expo, for allowing us to participate.
Thank you, and it was great being here, and just be well and be free, I guess.
Yeah, peace.
Thank you, everyone. Peace out. Take care.